Good morning, everyone. Question. 2017 Opportunity Zone legislation provides tremendous opportunities. We all know that. That's kind of why we're here. Let me ask you this. If you could get your capital gains tax breaks, 20% or more return, create stable jobs, and have a positive social impact, would you be more interested? Well, what I'm about to talk about today checks all the boxes. I'm Stan Emert from USWTE and Green and Biotech Holdings Corporation. USWTE stands for United States Waste to Energy. This is an opportunity fund that is geared to check all those boxes. The positive social impact, I'll tell you right up front, is environmental cleanup. That's something that I think that we all want, and we've all wondered, is there a way to monetize it? There is, and we'll talk about that an awful lot. Let's go to the next fund. First off, our USWTE Oz fund is raising $500 million. The minimum investment is $100,000. We don't touch it until there's at least $1 million that has been raised inside that fund. We are past that consideration at this point. But what I am saying is that there are still plenty of opportunities before year's end. Today, of course, is December the 12th, 2019. The focus of U.S. Waste to Energy is simply that, it is to spread United States technologies developed here that came from here to be able to help create energy out of waste. Goodness knows, there's an awful lot of waste. Let's see what we can do to be able to make it significant. All right, the executive summary is that we're seeking investors to establish these projects with a view to have follow-up funds to help create industrial parks throughout the United States in qualified opportunity zones. We don't have to be in an opportunity zone to be able to make it work, but why not if we can help provide the tax breaks at the same time. Our vision is to eliminate toxic waste. And this is we have a focus on the waste to energy because what I'm about to discuss is not only where we're creating waste to energy, but we are also creating global commodities that are not only very marketable, but are traded on the commodities market themselves. By the way, please feel free to go ahead and submit your questions at any time. We will get to them as we can. We already have a bunch of questions that have been submitted through some of the responses that we've already gotten, and so we'll be going over some of those a little bit later. The problems to solve that we've got to talk about. We have 8.3 billion tons of plastics. We've all seen the pictures. We've all seen it floating in the ocean. We've heard of the Great Pacific garbage patch that's floating around the Pacific Ocean, but there's a lot more than that. We see it in our own landfills. Plastics is a great, absolutely great technologies that has been created. We use it every day. If you were to just go around your house right now, you would be surprised at the amount of plastics that you have. Or at least I was when I started looking, because I was thinking about this and I saw, wow, I don't really want to live without plastic because it has been so great for me. It keeps food fresh. If I put it in the refrigerator, it makes it easy for me to bring my lunch. Just this morning, I had a couple of small plastic bags that I put my daughter's bacon in that she didn't eat at breakfast before she headed out to school, and some blueberries to try to get herself something else that was good. But they're in plastic bags. So plastics is a part of our society. It's part of our culture. It's a part of the global culture. At the same point in time, we're not disposing of it properly. And because there are well, we'll talk about recycling a little bit later. Let me just move on. Studies have shown that waste plastics are having a negative effect on animals, fish, plant life, all of that. I think the thing that bothers me the most, the statistic that I heard that bothers me the most, is that by the year 2050, and we're coming up on 2020 right now as we speak, by the year 2050, the weight of plastics in the oceans will exceed the weight of fish. I Again, the weight of plastics in the ocean by the year 2050 are projected to exceed the weight of fish. That's something that we just can't sustain as a planet. And sustainability is something that is not just on the financial side, it's also got to be on the environmental side as well. And we can do something about this. And from a business standpoint, we can as well. Um, Plastics are designed so efficiently that it takes more than 400 years for them to degrade. I mean, I guess here's kind of the point. The point's very simply that we create plastics today, and generations from now, those same plastics will still be here unless we do something about it. Same thing with tires. We create the tires today, years from now, unless we do something with it, those tires or the remnants of those tires will still be with us generations from now. And it's not good for the planet. It's putting toxic chemicals in our dirt that gets into our food, that gets into our bodies. Just not something that is sustainable at all. One thing else is for sure is that, well, the statistics show at least 80%, maybe even more than that, of all the plastics ever produced in the history of the world are still on the planet. It's been a long time. Other global issues that we have to address is that this continues to get worse year after year. Here in the United States, we're actually doing a pretty good job, but it's not good enough because we all still see plastic waste and tire. I mean, we've got tire dumps all over, illegal tire dumps all over the United States. Every now and then I will read about a prosecution that is taking place of an illegal tire dump. What if we were to financially incentivize that? I think that's something that would be very, very significant. Okay. The project objective. As it says on the screen, while providing the qualified opportunity zone tax benefits and advancing the innovation with renewable and sustainable waste to energy solutions, what we're trying to do is to create an opportunity for a cleaner globe as well as strong returns for the investor. But again, we're going to be creating jobs at the same time. So let's move on. And here's our solution. We have several technologies that we're working with, but we have one primary one, and it is Green Biotech Holdings. This is it is the leading technology for the fund, and we're going to concentrate on this technology not only due to our familiarity with it. I mean, from a disclosure standpoint, I'm a part of Green Biotech Holdings. I am the executive vice president of strategy, and this is a technology that I so strongly believe in that I'm willing to get out front in this. We have third-party guarantees that I'm going to talk about. We have well, let me just tell you exactly what it is. What this technology does is that it will take the plastics, it will take the tires, it will chemically decompose them down into where they came from, which was oil, and with the case of tires, carbon black. Those are two very, very highly sought after global commodities. And as we understand the value of that, what we also understand is that we have almost an unlimited feedstock to be able to do that. And one of the good things about Green and Biotech Holdings is that they also have negotiated some agreements whereby we are paid to take the feedstock. So we have income coming in several different ways. Okay. EcoHub waste separation is another technology that we're not going to talk about very much today, but this is something that we're also working on. And then a food waste separation as well, which is a renewables that we are working on and that's coming in future days. We also have a biofuel. But what we're really going to focus on today, though, is Green and Biotech Holdings. And we're really looking forward to talking more about that. And you're probably saying, okay, we'll get to it. We do have a couple of other things that we have to make sure that everybody knows, and that is the opportunity zones are all over the United States. There's over 7,800 zones. Interestingly enough, the zones were based on the 2010 census. And as a result of that, I find that it's probably not some of the best properties available now. For example, where I am sitting right now, on the west coast of the United States is in an opportunity zone. This area has been significantly developed over the last 10 years and probably shouldn't be an opportunity zone. This is not a place where we would put a green Envirotech, a GETH plant, as we call them, to be able to extract oil from tires and plastics. In any event, those of you who are interested in opportunity zones, you probably have already done this research. You understand far and away that there is so much that is available around the United States. So let's move on. The vision of the opportunity. I'm going to kind of go past this pretty quickly because this is real basic information with regard to opportunity zones that you've already looked at. You know that you get the stepped up basis of 10% after 5 years, 15% after 7, and then tax-free after 10. You know this. You more than likely have worked with your accountant, or you may be an accountant yourself, where you have talked with either your accountant or a consultant of some kind who really knows this very well. I am not one of those persons who is an accountant. I can tell you that this is a tremendous opportunity for you from a taxation standpoint. Okay, keys to the success. We feel this is absolutely important for it to be environmentally friendly facilities with a significant positive global impact. A lot of you probably have heard about impact investing before, and you think, okay, this is just being nice to the planet, and I don't get positive, the returns that I need to. We can show you how the return on investment is projected to exceed 20% per annum with this, while you're providing the positive social impact too. At the same point in time, if you can see my face, you can see that I wasn't born yesterday. So I'm old enough to know that if we don't get rid of if we don't handle these plastics and tires right now, we are leaving an incredibly bad legacy for our children and our grandchildren, because somebody's going to have to clean this up at some point. It is creating too much damage already to us. This isn't a political discussion about climate change. This is not about that at all. This is about garbage in our street. In a way, I'm kind of hearing my mother's voice saying, Stan, clean up your room. By the way, it's not on the screen, but my name is Stan Emert, and I'll share my contact information at the end as to how you can reach us here at USWTE. But I wanted to make sure that also, though, what I'm hearing is my mom's voice saying, Stan, clean up your room. And essentially, I think what we're hearing right now is Mother Earth is saying to us, we as a people, now it's time for us to clean up our planet because we've dirtied it up so much. The commodities that we create are oil, and it's a high-grade oil, carbon black, and electricity. The electricity we can use to put back into the plant to help power the plant itself. We don't have to, we can sell it back to the grid. But if we are in a state such as Washington State, where I am right now, where power is inexpensive, perhaps it would be best, instead of selling it back to the grid, for us just to use it ourselves. However, if we are in a state such as California, where power is really expensive, maybe it would be better to sell it back to the grid. We also have done some risk diversification by utilizing various USWTE technologies. That includes the guarantees that we're going to talk about. And in line with the Opportunity Zone regulations and the legislation and the regulations themselves that stimulate economic growth and job creation, this is something that I don't think in the discussion of the legislation originally they emphasized enough. Look, real estate developments where you've got low-income housing are great. Nothing wrong with them. But after you have the initial employment of the construction, then the management of a low-income housing facility, they don't need as many employees. With a Green Envirotech Holdings Corporation plant where we're extracting oil from tires and plastics, we need 150 employees per plant. These are stable jobs because we're creating the global commodities of oil and carbon black. So we do that by the job creation aspect of it. And then second, stimulating economic growth. There are ancillary jobs, the kinds of jobs where people are transporting feedstock to us, where people are collecting the feedstock, where we believe that by doing this, by putting a financial incentive and a financial aspect to garbage collection for individuals, that what can end up happening is there's going to be a renewed emphasis on taking care of our planet in a better place. And this is something that is really going to be hard to quantify. At the same point in time, the economic growth is more than just the plant itself. Full credit risk and major third-party balance sheet guarantees. Again, we're going to get to those. And our ROE level expectations, 20% per annum. And it's really kind of easy to figure this one out. Because when you've got a global commodity such as oil, you can take the last 10 years and you can come up with the average price of oil. Is oil going to go up? Yeah. Is oil going to go down? Yeah, it will. It's going to go both ways. That's just what it does. We're right now been sitting in an oil price of $60 a barrel or more. And with our cost per barrel being so significantly lower than so much of the drilling that goes on, what ends up happening is that it's very easy for us to show how our projections are appropriate. Next, carbon black. Carbon black is the kind of thing that goes into roads, goes into tires, goes into just about anything black that you need. It goes into your cartridge toner if it is refined enough for your printers. Carbon black is a product that is in heavy demand around the United States with a projected 55% increase in the price of carbon black over the next 5 years. We're not sure that that's going to happen, but we do know this: it is a highly profitable, easily traded commodity. And then finally, electricity. There's also a few other things that there's an income potential with, and that is, well, the one main thing where there's an income potential besides what we've already talked about is scrap metal. Scrap metal is something that comes out of the tires, and there's a little bit of it. It's not super significant. The significance is the oil and the carbon black. So let's go to next. We do have experience management here. Barak Ertan he's the president of New Century Funds, and he's a fund manager in Luxembourg. He's C-level advisory level roles across the world, not just in the United States. The president and leader of the company is Mark Gantar. He is a global economic leader. He has facilitated complex financial transactions throughout the United States, and also is a diplomat as the honorary consul for Ethiopia to the Pacific Northwest. I am now working with the University of Washington, been in business school education for quite some time. I also started the CSR group at Symetra Financial, which is corporate social responsibility, and have created a nonprofit that interviews people doing great things around the world. We are very proud of our advisory board as well. I'm not going to go through them individually, but I am just going to flip through so that you see that we have some very, very experienced people. Okay, the fund itself, we can, if you are interested in the fund, please contact us so that we can get you the PPM and get you some of the other information that we have with regard to it. What I want to do is I want to get to the substance of what we're going to do. So I'm going to flip to a second PowerPoint. No, this is not PowerPoint hell. This is actually something a little bit different. This is where we're talking about the specifics of the Green Envirotech process itself. Okay, so let's get to the slideshow view. Here we are. All right, we're converting scrap tire and plastic waste, yielding actually an EBITDA of 40 to 60%. That's in a slightly separate way. And if you want to, well, just contact us and we'll talk about that. We've already gone over this slide to a certain extent. I do think that the graphic is a good one because one thing that a lot of things that you may have heard is simply this, that you can't do anything with the water bottles. I got a water bottle here in front of me right now, and you can't do anything with them. We'll take them. There's not much oil content in them. It's really tiny. And, and frankly, if that were the only thing that we were running through the Green and Biotech plant, it wouldn't make money. But we want to help clean up the planet, so we'll take it all. We'll take your plastic water bottles so that we can get rid of all of them as well. Actually, there's more oil in the cap than there is in the rest of the bottle. Okay. Plastic waste, 350 million tons a year. Whoa, 350 million tons a year. And guess how much of it is going into landfills? Yeah, 90% of it goes into landfills. And so we know how long that's going to last. It's definitely going to outlast us. 1.5 billion tires a year are created here on the planet, and a lot of that is wasted. Interestingly enough, there's a statistic out of the UN that says that there is a 100-year supply. If we were working on just trying to run all of these tires that we possibly could through our facility, it would take 100 years to get them done. So basically what it's saying to us is that we need a lot of these plants around the world. Let's start in the United States and see if we can, how much of a dent that we can make into the waste, the toxic waste that is in our planet. Okay. Let's be real specific about it. It's a patent pending pyrolysis gasification. And pyrolysis you probably have heard of before. Actually, I've got some questions that I think what we may do is we may just go to them right now. I'm going to go to those questions. We've already prepared them ahead of time. And let's see if I can increase that view because that's just too small. Here we go. Let's just take... Okay, what is pyrolysis, the green and biotech process? Pyrolysis is basically the chemical decomposition of an item back into its original state. It is a process that has been around for as much as 7 decades. It's not been commercially successful though. Why is that? For the most part, what's happened is that the oil that has been created by others in the pyrolysis process has been an unmarketable product. Same thing with the carbon black. So what ends up happening is that you've got a lot of expenditure because these plants are not inexpensive. You've got a lot of expenditure that goes into the plant itself. And then what ends up happening is that you come out with something that's unmarketable. And so then like any other business, it fails. What's happened here is that the inventor, Gary De Laurentiis, who is a gentleman with some years behind him now, has spent decades in the recycling business. And because of that experience and his education as an engineer and with some partners, what he did is he has come up with some adjustments to the process that makes it so that you have a very high quality oil that is created. In fact, this oil is graded out at Alaska North Slope. Those of you who know oil know that that is a higher grade than Brent crude. And that is very, very significant. That means it's going to bring a high price. Let's go back to the slideshow itself. Let's see if I can do this right. A lot of the money that there has been into Green and Biotech so far has been put in R&D, and that was on purpose. That was to make sure that it worked, to make sure that that the problems of the past pyrolysis had been overcome, and indeed they have. Now, the bullet point that says on your screen, plant operations verified and certified. Okay, you can say, we did that ourselves. Certainly there is a guarantee coming from Green and Biotech, and USWTE is hoping to be able to provide the funding for that. But there's more than that. There are 2 third-party global engineering firms that have verified or certified the GETH process. One of them is BHP. BHP Construction based in Houston, and what they have done is they have provided a performance guarantee. Wood Engineering is a second global engineering firm. They're based in Scotland. They have verified the operations as well. That's very, very significant. But there's even, in my opinion, as a business person, there's even a more significant verification of the value of this, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. Because, and you probably can't see where my hand is going, but I'm trying to point to the screen. The raw pyrolysis oil is really not marketable, but it's after it goes through our process that we do, it gets to the Alaskan North Slope crude oil grade. And it says at the bottom, the global commodities are produced and pre-sold. What does that mean? Well, that means that ConocoPhillips, a global engineering or global oil company that we've all heard about, has signed an outtake agreement to buy every drop of oil that we can produce. We also have a second refinery that is owned by a global airline that has a take-or-pay contract. And that particular group is going to buy, I think, 10,000 barrels. Is 10,000, is that right? Yeah, 10,000 barrels, up to 10,000 barrels a day. So the point of it is that right now, all of the oil that we can produce, we're ready to go. Okay, let's talk about something else. If there were one of these plants were to be requested in an area in your city, you'd probably say, "Oh my gosh, the environmentalists would come out, in droves." I'm an environmentalist myself, and as that, I drive an electric car. So if I'm going to come to one of these meetings and drive an electric car and come up to it, I'm going to ask them if they're wearing shoes. And, they're probably going to say yes. And I said, well, you're wearing something that was created with oil. Many of our clothing has oil in it. So many of our products have oil in it. It's not, what it is that we can't replace drilling, but what we can do is we can reuse what we have already drilled for and recreate it. And this is a very, very significant aspect of the environmental cleanup and the cleanup of the planet to undertake this operation itself. Now, the competition produces bunker oil. We've talked about that. We have refined this technology and made it scalable. The plants themselves are something that take about 15 acres at a minimum. So that's why, in an opportunity zone in a large city, it's not going to work there because, getting 15 acres is too tough. An opportunity zone that's next to a neighborhood, you probably wouldn't want us right next to you. Even though we don't have, you just know that you've got an industrial operation. But there are opportunity zones in the state where I am that's 100 acres or more. And there probably are some with you as well. One other point I wanted to make, far below EPA emission standards. What that means is that the emissions that we have are so small that we have actually in the past passed through the requirements of one of the most difficult states to get through. And touch base with me and we'll talk about that even more if you would like. Okay. Let's see, we've already gone over that particular slide, so I'm going to go past it. What I want to do right now is I want to go back to our questions because I see that we're almost running out of time and I've talked enough anyway. You're probably tired of hearing my voice. Okay, we say we're better than others. How can we prove that? Well, the thing of it is that with ours, we already showed that we've got Alaskan grade North Slope, or that's the grade of the oil. None of the others in the past had been able to produce anything like this. Instead, it was an unmarketable product, and that's why it lost money. But don't take just our word for it. Take the word instead of the global EPC contractor that is willing to go out and say, yes, this works. And it works so much that we're putting a performance guarantee behind it. That's BHP Construction. Go to the other global EPC contractor that says, yes, it works. We're willing to verify it. Go to ConocoPhillips that says, yes, we're willing to buy all they can produce. Go to the other refinery and say, hey, we want 10,000 barrels a day. And here's the reason why it's so good for refineries. And it is that there are levels of oil that refineries will buy. The lower the level, the lower or the higher the cost are in getting it to be something marketable. With ours, it is almost ready to go itself. So that is why it is really something very significant. Okay, let's go to this next one. As pyrolysis is not new, why will your process succeed when others failed? Very similar to what I just said. It is, we create a marketable product. Same thing with the carbon black as well, whereas others in the past, you know, I look at this kind of like airplanes or cell phones. Let's take your cell phone. I had a cell phone back in the 80s and it was mounted in my car, and that's the only place where I could get it. You know, the reception was just terrible. You know, and now, of course, my cell phone is right here, just like yours, and it's with me everywhere. It's a very powerful piece of technology. Things improved. This is what's happened with pyrolysis. Pyrolysis has improved, and we're the ones who have been taking this next step. Okay, how many jobs are created? In the United States, approximately 150 stable jobs per plant. And I emphasize the word stable. Why do I, and the reason that I do that is because the stability is created out of the product that is created. The product that is created, of course, are global commodities. Because there is a global demand, it's not just in the United States, but there's a global demand. This is exportable as well. Because there's a global demand that helps create the stability for the jobs. We're not going to be subject to tariffs even so much. You know, we know that many businesses today have had some downturns as a result of tariffs and the tariff war, if you will, that is undergoing. Again, I'm not going to get into any kind of political discussion. I will just say that oil and carbon black seem to have an inverse relationship. As if the price of oil comes down, the price of carbon black seems to go up. And so we're almost insulated, almost de-risked from that type of fluctuation. How many jobs are created? As I said before, 150 per plant. And that's pretty significant. I just want to ask you this. In your community, if you had 150 new stable jobs, would that be something that your city would want? I suspect there would. Is there enough feedstock? We actually have had this question several times, and we aren't dependent upon feedstock in a local community. Let's say that there were a community of 1.5 million people, or a city of 1.5 million people, or a metropolitan area of that. And in that particular area, they did a fantastic job with regard to recycling, and the recycled products were there was actually a market for them. There's still plenty of feedstock. We can bring the feedstock in from neighboring communities. There's so much plastic waste out there that we're not really super concerned over lack of that. Besides, we have contracts that are going to bring in enough feedstock to be able to have us going in plants for a long period of time. Besides, so many communities right now are trying to get rid of their feedstock. They'll put it on trains, and we're very happy to have the trains come right to us. Okay, next question. Can your plants work in opportunity zones? And that answer is yes, but we need about 15 acres. So we also, it really needs to be pretty industrial because we need a strong power supply. And because of that, it's not just any opportunity zone that is going to work. Again, a 5-acre area where we're not going to be able to scale the plant down because the plants need a certain, size to be able to work well. Next, does it pollute? The answer is no, it does not. And that is because of the process itself. The gases themselves are actually used to help create the electricity that we put right back into the plant, or again, we can sell it on the secondary market. And my main point here is that we are trying to actually depollute the earth by getting rid of the tires and plastics. Okay, next question. Is it hot? Is it noisy? It is not hot. It's hot inside. If you were to walk inside, one of the containment fields inside of the plant itself, but you're not going to do that because you can't get there. And is it noisy? The answer to that is no, too. Now, let's be realistic about it. You still wouldn't want one of these right next to your neighborhood, just like you wouldn't want any other industry right next to your neighborhood. It is neither hot nor noisy, and so you're not going to get complaints from that. How much land is needed for a plant? Again, the 208 ton per day tire plant is need about 15 acres. The 312 ton per day plastics plant needs slightly more than that, but still, we're talking less than 20 acres. So that part is really pretty much set. We're not going to be able to use 10 acres by itself. So if you're really focused on an opportunity zone, know that it's going to have to be at least 15 acres. Now, we don't have to be in an opportunity zone. That's what this discussion is about. So, if you're interested outside of an opportunity zone, please let us know. What are other technical requirements? I see that there are a lot of technical requirements that we have, but they're easily to overcome. And the reason being is that cities, communities, from an economic development standpoint, they are quite able to be able to handle a plant with our needs. We need a certain amount of electricity, we need some water, and then we need the general area. We will also be building a building, but it's a shell. We don't want to be storing tires or plastics out in the open air. In fact, we don't want to store it at all. We want it to come in and then process it and then get it out. But if there is any storage at all, it'll be in a separate building. Okay, this is really significant. How can your plants help cities? If you talk to city administrators, just about every city in the United States, they have a glut of plastics. They don't know what to do with them because they used to be able to send them to China and they can't anymore. So what do they do with it now? And other states are looking, to where can we send it? With this, you can, with this pyrolysis process through Green and Biotech Holdings Corporation, you can get rid of the plastics forever, eliminate them forever through the chemical decomposition process, and then come out with the global commodities and the jobs. And this is how you help the cities. You get rid of the problem that they have of what they can do with their plastic waste. You don't need to go send it to a landfill anymore. And in fact, one of the things that I've been asked as someone who is knowledgeable in business is, what industries are you displacing? Well, to a certain extent, we are displacing some of the recycling opportunities that there are. But we've seen the market for recycled plastic goods is really dropping because there's so much of it around. I totally understand that. So do we damage the landfill companies? Well, no, because they have more plastic than what they can handle. Do we damage the plastics industry? Well, no, because they're able to go ahead and create more plastics if they absolutely want to. We know that there's a significant amount of research going into having non-oil based plastics. We think that's great. We completely applaud it. The fact of the matter is, though, is that there's still going to be oil that needs to be recycled, and recycle is not the right word. It's actually gone through our process. So then we'll be able to return it back to the marketplace. I hope that makes sense. Another thing, there has just been a recent proposal to have higher reporting requirements or more stringent reporting requirements for businesses in opportunity zones. It doesn't affect us at all because the plant, if it's in an opportunity zone, that's where all the income comes from. That's where the expenses come from. It's all generated right there. Our normal business reporting would easily handle just about any requirement that they can throw at us, simply because we're going to need it to operate the business anyway. So we're fine with additional reporting requirements. Okay. The last question that we have ahead of time here, let me get rid of that, is does an investor have to go through our Opportunity Zone Fund to get involved? And the answer is no. We are very happy at USWTE for some other Opportunity Zone Fund to work directly with Green and Biotech Holdings. We will even facilitate that. So with that, I don't see any other questions. I want to, let's see if there is anything else. I'm just making sure that we have, oh yes, I want to make sure that if you have questions that you can reach us. And because we are about coming down to the end of our time, again, like to exit end of slideshow. I want to go back. There we are. Sorry about that. Our USWTE info, mark.gantar@us-wte.com. It's up on the screen. And then this webinar itself, if you didn't get to watch all of it, or if you want to watch it again, you can do so. We're going to have it in two places. One is going to, actually, it's going to be hosted on the Green and Biotech YouTube channel. And if you were just to go to YouTube and go to Green and Biotech channel, what you would see would be actually a lot. And that is one thing that I'm going to do before we go. I want to show you that because there's a lot of questions that we've answered in a video. Let's see. In a video FAQ. And let's see, Green and Biotech. Okay, there we are. So there's Mark Gantar himself. And he's answered an awful lot of your questions ahead of time. I've talked about it with regard to cities. And so the whole point of it is certainly we hope that you do consider USWTE in your Opportunity Zone Fund investment. We want to make sure that you have answers to all of your questions. And I'm going to go back to that contact information right here. So with that, if there's no other questions, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this off. Thank you very much for attending, and look forward to talking with you.